October. Very warm, almost no wind, just a great night to begin postseason baseball at Fenway.
We talked to Terry Francona about the swirling winds here at Fenway Park, and he said, take a look at that flag out in center field, and if it's blowing out toward left center field, you know that the ball will carry. Well, the flag is doing absolutely nothing, so it's a very still night. That's very rare in Boston this time of year, but a beautiful night to start off the series between a couple of teams that are pretty evenly matched.
And two teams that pretty much went wire to wire. Terry Francona's Red Sox from May 1st on led the American League East. They had a little bump from the Yankees in September, but they're in the playoffs for the 4th time in the last 5 years. And they've started to erase the memory of a painful September last year. And for Mike Scioscia's Angels, 4th time in 6 years there in postseason play, and the same thing. They had a painful end to last year and ended up watching the postseason. And now the meeting at home plate with the umpires has concluded, and here is the Angels starting lineup tonight. This has got some changes. Sean Figgins, their such valuable leadoff man and utility player, will be in right field tonight. Orlando Cabrera at short. Vladimir Guerrero will be the DH because of tendonitis in his right triceps. Garrett Anderson, a great second half as the cleanup hitter. Maicer Isturis will play third base. Casey Kochman at first. Howie Kendrick, Mike Napoli, and Reggie Willits will play center field in the absence of Gary Matthews Jr.
Josh Beckett on the mound tonight, as you can see, 20-7. The only man in the major leagues to win 20 games. The ERA at 3.27. He went over 200 innings again. This year he kept the home runs down, a little less than half of what he gave up last year. And as you can see, almost a 5-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. Unbelievable for a power pitcher. Josh Beckett is that. He's got a couple of different fastballs, a great overhand curve, and a vastly improved straight change.
Look at those numbers. 20 wins in 30 starts and only 40 walks. And those are numbers we'll get a chance to chew on those a little bit early in the game as we see how the Red Sox align themselves defensively. Terry Francona told us tonight Coco Crisp's defense in center field he thought as good as any in the league. And Mike Lowell, his reputation unchallenged, a Gold Glove third baseman. And Jason Varitek didn't hit well second half of the year, but the anchor for the Red Sox behind the plate.
A lot of pressure on Jason Varitek because there is no doubt that the Angels are going to run. And if they get on with Figgins, Cabrera, they run a lot. They've got some speed with Willits in the 9 spot. So as the lineup rolls over, if Beckett can't get those guys out, it's going to be pretty tough for Varitek.
All right, here's our umpiring crew for this division series. Gary Darling's 7th postseason assignment, works home plate. Barrett at he's on the left field line tonight, and the first postseason assignment for C.B. Buckner on the right field line.
Hard to believe that Sean Figgins ended the season 0 for 22 and still hit .330, but that's exactly what he did, and he swiped 41 bases. He was caught only 12 times. If Josh Beckett wants to have a good night, this is a good man to keep off base, and Mike Lowell is in at the cut of the grass trying to take the bunt away.
Now Sean Figgins ended the regular season, which was a marvelous season for him. He ended it 0 for 22 and has a bad left wrist. It bothers him batting right-handed, but he shouldn't do that much in this series against the Red Sox as Beckett starts with a ball. And Stoney, you'd have to think this is a huge player as well for the Angels. They need Figgins to be the catalyst.
Well, Figgins and Cabrera at the top have got to set it up for Guerrero and Anderson.
Orlando Cabrera and then Vladimir Guerrero. Is an Angels team that does not scare you with the long ball, but they found ways all year long to finish 4th in the league in runs scored. 1 and 2 to Figgins.
This is an outfield that's very difficult in center field. You have 420 into right center field. The 379 mark in left center is very difficult to play because the ball will go off at different angles. And Coco Crisp is a master out there defensively.
2-2 to Figgins. And the Red Sox shading him. Crisp pretty decidedly to left center. Manny Ramirez toward the left field line.
Well, he's thrown him 4 straight fastballs. A good time to throw the overhand hook and keep it away.
So Figgins lays off in the count full.
Beckett's had that great control all year, and this would be a very bad time for him to lose that pinpoint control. Right now, he's a little overly strong. He's got to throttle back some of the adrenaline and start throwing strikes.
And Figgins hits it off Dustin Pedroia's glove. And so Figgins in his first at-bat does just what the Angels need. And for Sean Figgins, who has not had great postseasons in his Angels career, this first at-bat he hopes is an omen of better things.
6 straight fastballs, and Figgins hits the 6th one right on the button. Good effort by the former Arizona State shortstop Dustin Pedroia, now the second baseman for the Boston Red Sox. But they've got their speed burner on, and Cabrera can do a lot of things. He can bunt, he can hit and run. Most likely he'll hit down in the count. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to set the tone early and ran against Veritek, probably in the 2nd or 3rd pitch.
And Figgins this year stole 41 bases. He was caught 12 times. That is not a fabulous percentage for a big base stealer, but he loved the first pitch, went often on the first pitch. And Stoney, everything we just talking to Mike Scioscia and the Angels, they're not going to back down. You've got to believe he's going somewhere in this scenario.
Pretty quick move by Beckett, who is quick to home plate. This isn't an easy combination to steal against. We take a look at Veritek as he looks over in the Red Sox dugout. He's given the signs by Brad Mills, who's the bench coach.
And Cabrera out in front. Pulls one deep and foul down the left field line.
Well, when you look at the numbers for Cabrera this year, the thing that jumps out at you is not necessarily the .301 batting average. It's the fact that he's driven in 86 runs. And this was a guy who used to hit right in the middle of the lineup for the Montreal Expos. He was the star of that team. He's been a role player here, but everybody talks about his baseball acumen being off the charts.
And it was an interestingly quiet response from the crowd when Cabrera was just introduced. There goes Figgins. And Cabrera reaches out and taps one towards the second base bag, but it does allow Figgins to advance. Lugo having to play that ball in front of the base and gets Cabrera with Figgins moving.
With the strike, you don't want to take the second pitch, but there is no doubt that Figgins would have stolen this base. It is a hit and run. Leaves Lugo with only one play, and that to first base. So Figgins in scoring position for the heart of the order. And that's Guerrero and the red-hot Garrett Anderson.
And this is the exact scenario that helped the Angels in the second half of the season, Stoney. When Anderson started to hit, teams were less willing to just walk Guerrero.
It's not easy to walk Guerrero because he's going to swing at most everything. But the oddity is that Guerrero, who hits everybody, has had very bad luck against Beckett, hitting just .217 lifetime. He's touched him for 1 home run in 23 at-bats, but he's driven in only 3. And you can see Beckett's hole card is he's going to try to jam it.
And Guerrero with a swing 1-1. Now, you've watched Guerrero, Stoney, a lot of years in the National League as well. Is there any way, if you were pitching, how would you try to pitch Vladimir Guerrero in this situation, an RBI spot?
I don't believe there's any one way that you can pitch him because he's got such long arms. If you try to keep the ball away, he'll reach out there and wrap it into right center field. I think you just have to try to get ahead and then jam it. If he gets a base hit, let him get it to left field, and it's short here.
There goes Figgins. He had a huge jump, and he is safe at third. Lowell will get Guerrero. Well, Figgins, he might have been able to steal that standing up. He had that big a jump on Josh Beckett. Now Figgins edging down, but eventually time is called.
in the sequence, this is the second that Figgins probably would have stolen, except contact was made. And Beckett did indeed throw the fastball inside. Lowell was playing him toward the line. He hit it right at him. So now Figgins moves to third, but there are 2 outs.
And so the Angels will hope that Garrett Anderson can deliver, as he did so often in the second half of the year. This veteran Angel, whose highlight game was a 10 RBI night against the New York Yankees.
And the place to get Garrett Anderson, if you can get it there, is down and in off the plate. He'll crush the ball knee-high inside. But if you can throw that slider or curveball low and on the inner portion, almost at his back foot, he'll swing over that a lot.
Now look at the right eye. You saw a great shot there. Anderson's been battling a little bit of a, we term pink eye in the right eye, and you can see there's some swelling there. Not terribly comforting when you go up to face Josh Beckett. And it's the last thing the Angels need, given all of the little health issues they're dealing with in postseason.
Fans in Fenway up on their feet, looking for an end to this first inning.
He went around, and Anderson out swinging. Varitek will throw it to Youkilis to complete the strikeout. So a leadoff hit for Figgins, but Beckett pitches through. The American League Division Series on TBS, presented by Budweiser, as we go to the bottom of the first inning. And here's the Red Sox batting order. Dustin Pedroia, having a marvelous rookie year, caps it off, leading off in the postseason with Kevin Youkilis second. Then David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, and Mike Lowell, the heart of that order for the Red Sox. J.D. Drew will bat 6. Jason Varitek 7. Then Coco Crisp with 60 RBIs 8th. And Julio Lugo drove in 73, and he bats 9th. And Lackey starts Pedroia with a strike.
John Lackey had a great year, led the American League in ERA with a .301 earned run average. You can see 3.5 to 1 strikeout to walk ratio, and he's got a fastball in the low to mid 90s.
That's a fair ball played by Mycer Astúriz, and he throws out Pedroia. And so the Angels defensively, and the outfield here is the big question with Anderson left, but Reggie Willits, a rookie, playing center, and Sean Figgins, who has played some right, plays a tough right field at Fenway. Cabrera, a Gold Glover, played that caliber of defense this year for the Angels, and Mike Napoli is the catcher for John Lackey.
The inner defense is pretty good for the Angels. It's going to be the outfield that might be a bit of a mystery. Figgins is very shallow in right field. You can see the missing Gary Matthews, not able to play. That takes a big chunk out of the outfield defense.
Yesterday, Matthews went through the workouts here at Fenway. Tried, he hit, ran a little bit in the outfield, but just told the Angels that he did not feel like he could compete at full speed. Did not want to hurt the team. As Kevin Youkilis takes 2 balls and a strike.
Lackey's really struggled in this ballpark. 1-4 lifetime with an ERA up over 7. This year he's 0-2 with an ERA up over 8.
And Youkilis drives this deep left center. The outfielders look up, and it is gone into the monster seats. Second batter, Kevin Youkilis, puts the Red Sox in front.
Youkilis not known for big power, but he did hit 16 home runs this year. And he got a fastball on the inner part of the plate and hit it about as well as you can hit it. So 2 hitters into the game. The Red Sox take a 1-0 lead. It's Dave Magadan, the hitting coach.
And Ortiz fouls back the first pitch for Kevin Youkilis. That is the first postseason hit of his career, a home run at Fenway Park.
picked a pretty good time for it. And Ortiz and Ramirez, the next two hitters, have just killed John Lackey over the course of their careers.
And Ortiz fouls one back. Ortiz, we mentioned, had a fabulous September. He hit nearly 400, and he's 11 for 29 with 2 home runs against Lackey.
Somewhat surprising. Garrett Anderson is that deep in left field. He's almost on the warning track. If it goes over his head, it's going off the wall or out of the ballpark.
And Willett's playing into left center and very deep. Now, John Lackey, the last time, as you see Anderson back there by the scoreboard.
See, Manny Ramirez will play everybody a lot more shallow. He's used to playing that, and he realizes that you have to play the carom. You don't want to get trapped too close to the wall.
August 17th was the last time John Lackey pitched here. And he gave up 6 runs in the first inning.
You know, we talk about his career at this ballpark, and there you see it graphically. It's been a struggle for him.
And he has really taken his breakthrough season this year, 5 years after he started and won Game 7 for the Angels in the World Series. This year in the regular season, start to finish, the ace of this staff. As Ortiz takes it inside. Bartolo Colon has now really been hampered by injury for 2 years, and Lackey, the man that stepped in to be this #1 guy.
Well, they asked Lackey, how does it get any better from winning the World Series? He said, I was just a youngster. I was a 2-pitch pitcher. He feels he's a lot more refined now, and he can win with less than his best. And tonight, so far, he's had less than his best. He's a guy that has a good curveball, a wipeout slider, and a fastball in the mid-90s. But this has been a terrible park for him.
Can you put that out of your head as a player?
I think you have to, because you realize that nothing that happened before affects what's going to happen tonight. But if you're struggling at all, this is a very bad lineup to struggle against.
And Ortiz goes to left field, where Isturis was the only infielder on the left side, and Ortiz hits it against the shift for a 1-out single. As we check in on the field with Jose Mota. Jose.
You know what? Not the way really Mike Scioscia and the Angels envision with the outfielders. You got talked about Matthews being out with a knee, and also Guerrero, who hopefully will be back on Sunday in the outfield. But here's the thing. Mike Scioscia knows that this team has been tested and its depth every single month. For the skipper for the Angels, he says, no concern, at least with Willits and Figgins. I have a lot of speed and a very challenging ballpark.
And Reggie Willits, a rookie, getting the faith from Mike Scioscia, getting this first game start as Manny Ramirez fouls it back.
Manny Ramirez had an oblique problem, and that hurt him for 4 or 5 weeks. They didn't want to rush him back because they realized that that could be something that he took into the postseason with him. So those aren't regular Ramirez numbers. They're pretty good, but not the numbers you associate with Manny Ramirez.
Now, Lackey's got a whole different set of numbers with Ramirez. 23 career at-bats for Ramirez, and he's hit 4 home runs off Lackey.
Well, both combatants know that that .435 batting average is not an illusion. Everybody in Boston will tell you that Manny is 100%. And that remains to be seen. We'll see it in this series if he can let it go.
The 1 out here in the bottom of the first. Kevin Youkilis with a home run to give the Red Sox the lead. Ortiz at first after a single, and now Ramirez takes ball 1. All right, so my first postseason rule that I would put into play, got to polish the helmets. Cabrera and Ramirez, and you can't see the logo on the front of the helmet because of the pine tar. That's my first rule change, okay?
When you become commissioner, you work that into the repertoire.
A shot off of Isturis. Karams to the field box seats behind third. And the Red Sox 2 on here in the first inning. And immediately John Lackey getting into the very hole he wanted to avoid.
Well, we told you the two guys in this lineup that just killed them were Ortiz and Ramirez. And this ball's on the outer third of the plate. Manny Ramirez takes it right down the line. A vicious one-hopper. Nice play by his tourist just to stop it. And there's no way in the world that Ortiz was going to get the third. So already Butcher out to the mound to talk with Lackey. Sometimes a ballpark or a specific club can get into your head. And the more you tell yourself to forget about it, it's almost like talking about don't think of the elephant in the room.
That's why I'm wondering that. You know, it's easy to say that it's postseason. It doesn't matter. You got to forget it. How easy is it to actually do that?
Well, we talked about this being a very difficult team to struggle against, and so far Lackey has fallen behind.
Now, as good as Ortiz is, as good as Ramirez has been, not necessarily this year, you talk to a lot of people who cover this team and watch them religiously, and they'll tell you, here's the MVP of 2007.
Well, if you're John Lackey, here's the ground ball you want because Lowell can't run. But you're right about that MVP because Lowell, through all of the injuries, to the knee problem with Ortiz, to the side problem with Ramirez, Lowell has continued to drive in runs, 120 of them this year.
Boy, Lackey gets a big pop up here. That is huge for the Angels. Historis with the catch, 2 down. So you put the big RBI man out the first time.
Looked like a pretty good curveball. Lowell hits it off the end of the bat, just pops it straight up, an easy out. And this is one of the keys to the lineup. J.D. Drew and his left-handed bat against the right-handed starters.
Lackey starts with a breaking ball. J.D. Drew in the first year in Boston as a free agent, batting with 2 on and 2 out. And he did not have a very good year. You saw the numbers. He actually hit better in September, which gives the Red Sox some hope for the postseason. But overall was a down first year for Drew.
The last thing you want to do to a guy with the power of J.D. Drew is fall behind, and that's exactly what Lackey has done. And this is what the Red Sox will do to you. They'll pile up the pitches early, so by the time you get in the 5th or 6th inning, you're over 100 pitches.
Well, Lackey's at 23 already here in the bottom of the first as he goes 3-0 on Drew. Both starters tonight still under the age of 30. Both are Texans. Fiercely competitive. John Lackey was a high school quarterback in West Texas, and if you've read or seen the film or watched Friday Night Lights, you get a pretty good idea of what scrutiny is like, and that's why John Lackey laughs at when you talk about pressure here. Little dribbler, Esteuris makes the quick play and gets Drew. Nicely done by Masir Esteuris to put an end to the inning. It could have been worse, but Kevin Youkilis, his first career postseason hit, a home run to give the Red Sox the lead in Boston. Now there's a live MLB postseason Spanish language feed available. Escuche en español con SAP.
Very nice.
Well, wait a minute. I'll wait for further judgment. We'll let Jose chime in and let me know how good that was.
Well, I think it's terrific, and I think that maybe going on that Angel charter for you would be a good thing.
Well, we welcome you back to Fenway Park in the top of the 2nd inning, game 1 of the American League Division Series. The Red Sox out 1-0 on a home run by Kevin Youkilis, and here's a most unusual sight. Masir Esteuris batting 5th in the Angel lineup, but manager Mike Scioscia was telling us before the game today that they sit down and looked at all the numbers, performance of their hitters this year, and Esteuris was so good in so many clutch hitting categories, he's earned this spot.
Well, when they pitch around Anderson, Esteuris has hit over 400 with runners in scoring position. So he said, at first glance, you'd say this is a top of the order hitter or a bottom of the order hitter because he gives you a little speed, it gives you some contact. But when he took a look at the numbers and realized that if you don't pitch to Garrett Anderson, as Torres comes up and hits .406. Anderson sees better pitches. That's the reason why as Torres is hitting where he is.
And as Torres hits a chopper that Mike Lowell fields on to Youkilis, and first man out in the second inning for the Angels.
Lowell's a perfect example of a great third baseman who doesn't have much speed. He's got great first step quickness. A lot of infield coaches will tell you that he slows the ball down. He's got very soft hands. He's able to know when he can back up a step, get the throw over there regardless of how fast the runner is just ahead of him. And one Gold Glove, but the all-time percentage record at third base defensively for Mike Lowell.
And Casey Kochman, the Angels' first baseman, takes a strike as Beckett hits 98 on the first pitch. Kochman at just 24 years old. He's been a highly regarded prospect for the Angels for several years, a former #1 pick.
And they believe that his power is going to come to him. This year, just 11 home runs. He hit .296. He drove in 68. But talking with Mike Scioscia, he thinks that those power numbers are going to consistently go up.
And Kochman, a 97-mile-an-hour fastball, just fouls it off to stay alive. As Mike Scioscia, who in a very understated way has created, along with his general manager Bill Stolman, a very strong baseball franchise, the Los Angeles Angels.
Also, don't underestimate Artie Moreno, the owner, and his influence, because they drew well over 3 million fans again at the ballpark. People of Anaheim have really taken to the Angels. They're competitive every year. Artie Moreno very much is a fan's owner, and he's done a great job there revitalizing that franchise.
Breaking balls to Kochman, and he rolls it to Pedroia, 2 down.
Josh Beckett came over from the Florida Marlins, and Hanley Ramirez was the big player in that deal. He's now starring for the Marlins. There's a look at Artie Moreno. He used to be a part owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks, then parted ways with Jerry Colangelo. He's done a great job in Anaheim, and the folks just love him, and you can understand why. 5th straight year over 3 million people.
Here's Howie Kendrick, second baseman, and that batting average not a fluke. Now, he was hurt a couple of times this season, but a legit 300 big league hitter, Mike Scioscia thinks, for some time to come. That is well, Kendrick says he fouled it off his foot, and now the ball is ruled foul.
Well, he wants to take a look at the baseball to see if there's a mark on it, and if there's no mark on it, he's going to call him out.
Terry Francona,
I think Ted Barrett is
already
saying,
out.
That it didn't hit off his foot. We'll have to take a look and see.
That's Ted Barrett, the umpire at third, as Gary Darling looked like he let Ted Barrett make this call.
That didn't look to me like it hit off his foot, but it looks like the Angels will get the benefit of the call.
Boy, there was an awful lot of dirt that kicked up there, and that appears to be very good schooling by Howie Kendrick.
Exactly right. Just hop around a little bit and try to convince the home plate umpire, or in this case, the third base umpire, that it did indeed hit you. Mike Scioscia said the 322 this year was a fluke because Howie Kendrick usually hits 360.
2-1 to Kendrick. All right, so this allows me to ask you real quickly on that last play. Replay. It's been a topic this week. What do you think?
No, I don't like it. Don't like it at all. I like the human element, and more times than not, the umpires do get it right.
Kendrick out to left center, but crisp. A good break on that ball, runs it down, and Beckett has now put down 6 Angels in a row.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent.
At Fenway Park, John Lackey delivering ball one to Jason Varitek, leading off the bottom of the second. A Kevin Youkilis first inning home run, giving Boston a 1-0 lead. This will be 7, 8, 9. Varitek, Crisp, and Lugo for the Red Sox.
Talking with Terry Francona, he said that Varitek is very much old school as far as catchers are concerned. His primary concern is the defense. He says that C on his uniform should be bigger. He's a guy that will meet with his pitcher between innings, even if it's his at bat. If he wants to tell him something about how to work a guy, that's all he cares about. Whatever he does offensively is a plus, but you can bet that this is probably as valuable a man as they have on this team.
And he rips one to right. Figgins to the line, plays it on one hop, and Varitek leads off the bottom of the second with a hit for the Boston Red Sox, champions of the American League East, ending an incredible run by the Yankees. The Red Sox winning the division for the first time since 1995. What a find in Dustin Pedroia, likely the front runner for American League Rookie of the Year. At the end, it ends up being another big season for Big Papi. And there it is, the Red Sox ending the Yankees division title run.
But they were unable to keep them out of the playoffs.
And Coco Crisp takes a strike. And yeah, the Yankees got the better of the Red Sox in their head-to-head games in September. So if the teams advance to the ALCS, if that happens, that's a little message sent in September by the Yankees. Crisp, like Varitek, both did not hit well against the Angels this year. They both had the same numbers, just 3 for 29 against this good Angels pitching staff.
Well, in talking with Terry Francona about Coco Crisp, he says, I don't care if he doesn't get a hit in the entire series, because what he does for us in center field is chase down everything and play the quirky corners here as well as anybody in baseball.
And this will be Howie Kendrick doing it himself. 4-3 double play on a fast man. So John Lackey gets a big double play ball.
That's one of the things that Lackey had to do this inning, was keep the pitches to a minimum. This is hit right back up the middle. Very easy play for Kendrick, who's got a strong arm, and no way in the world that Crisp can outrun that.
So Julio Lugo with 2 outs and no one on, and a man of much discussion in Boston. He did not have a good first half at all. He did hit 280 after the All-Star break and ends up with 73 runs batted in. And of course, the shortstop story here is that the man standing at the shortstop position in the field right now was the Red Sox shortstop when they won the World Series. But Orlando Cabrera went to the Angels that winter. And the Red Sox have had 3 different shortstops in the 3 years since Cabrera left.
And the irony in that one is he was traded from Montreal in a 4-way deal that sent longtime Boston great Nomar Garciaparra to the Cubs. Garciaparra now resides with the Dodgers.
Of course, the man the Red Sox originally thought was going to take the place of Cabrera was Edgar Renteria. That didn't work. And there's Lugo with a base hit. That was a real sign of baseball today, wasn't it? Youkilis standing on the top step, practicing his swing, timing his swing again.
Well, this is what the Red Sox do to you, is there's no breathers in the lineup. Lackey fell behind 2-1. He had to throw a fastball that was right down the middle. And Lugo just took it into right field to keep the inning alive and make sure that Lackey has to throw some more pitches. And Pedroia, who was a shortstop at Arizona State, now playing second base and the logical candidate for Rookie of the Year in the American League. I talked to a former scouting director, now an assistant general manager. He told me he saw Pedroia a lot in college. And he said he didn't run well. His fielding was okay. It was a little rough. He could swing the bat real well.
There goes Lugo. So it's the Red Sox running, and oh, he's out. Lugo is out, much to the dismay of the faithful here at Fenway. And Terry Francona is going to be joining that conversation in a moment. Lugo can't believe the call. And now he's pulled away, and he'll let Terry Francona take up the discussion with Brian Runge. Well, it's part of the story. The Red Sox ran more this year.
Well, we'll look at the quick tag, and looked to me like he was safe at second base.
Well, it puts an end to the inning. 1-0 Red Sox after 2. Welcome back to Fenway Park. What was that you told me, Stoney, about Mike Lowell has the best fielding percentage in third baseman in history?
And great first step quickness. That's what you need.
This is the first pitch of the inning on a shot hit by Mike Napoli.
Outstanding effort to his left, and he throws Napoli out easily. This infield, very good defensively for the Red Sox, and that gives a pitcher a whole lot of confidence, especially when you don't have to strike everybody out.
So Mike Napoli, the 8th hitter in the Angels order, out on 1 pitch on the terrific play by Lowell. And now Reggie Willits getting the start in center field, hit .293 with very little power. He's also a guy that takes a lot of pitches. He has that more modern approach to hitting. He will almost never swing at the first pitch.
Well, he's one of those guys that is just going to poke the ball and try to hit the ball in the infield and get on. He swiped 27 bases, but he hasn't hit a home run in 430 at bats. So very little power would be an understatement.
And it's another example of why the Angels are a team that I think a lot of baseball fans, especially baseball fans of some vintage, put the label on them, National League style of team. It may not necessarily be appropriate today, but I think baseball fans understand that terminology.
Well, it's not only just stealing bases, because that's one aspect of speed, but speed helps you on defense. This team goes first to third better than any team around, and will do it consistently. And to do that, I've got Alfredo Griffin, the first base coach, talking to all of their base runners about taking a look at the outfielders and the positioning on every pitch, so they know to go as soon as the ball's hit. And here's an example of a tough out. You've got a strikeout pitcher on the mound, and Willits just kept spoiling good pitch after good pitch, trying to do whatever he can to get on ahead of the top of the order.
And that's Sean Figgins on deck, the only base runner so far for the Angels. Willits with another foul. This Angels team with very little power relative to the other teams in the league, but they played that. There's a phrase that sort of lost its meaning a little bit in baseball maybe the last 10 years, called productive outs. And these Angels this year, a lot of productive outs to generate runs.
Number 1 in baseball in hitting sacrifice flies. And Mike Scioscia said they have to score runs with outs. And it sounds kind of strange, but he goes, we move base runners up, we hit behind them, we go from first to third, and then guys look for a ball up in the zone where he can hit a sacrifice fly. It's how we teach it, and it's what we do from the bottom of the organization to the top.
Willits to left field. Manny Ramirez in that shallow set that Steve mentioned early on. Ramirez very shallow to make that play. 2 down. This American League Division Series on TBS is presented by Budweiser, the official beer of baseball. What a thrill for all of us to be involved with TBS in its first year carrying postseason baseball. And Fenway Park tonight, this weekend Wrigley Field and Yankee Stadium, the 3 reigning cathedrals of baseball.
It's just going to be a great postseason. There's already been one bit of a surprise as Colorado defeated Philadelphia in Philadelphia and beat Cole Hamels.
There's Sean Figgins taking strike 1. Have the Rockies lost in the last 3 months, by the way?
Well, I think they've won 15 of their last 16. So if you're talking about going into the playoffs hot, that's about as hot as you can get.
Figgins with a base hit in the first inning. And we mentioned that as terrific a player and a weapon as Sean Figgins has become for the Angels, his postseasons prior have not been strong. Just 8 for 53 in his postseason career coming to tonight. And that's something the Angels very badly need him to reverse.
I think any type of wrist problem for a hitter is going to set them back, and that's exactly what happened with Figgins. He was so hot this year, then had a wrist problem, cooled off for a while. He took a couple of weeks off and lost 20-some points on his batting average, but when you wind up at 330, you're doing okay.
This is the 10th batter that Beckett has faced, and that was only the 12th ball that he has thrown. Oh, great pitch right on the inside to eat up Figgins. Second strikeout for Josh Beckett. Here's a pop-up on the first pitch in the bottom of the third inning. Pedroia for Boston popping it up, and Cabrera for the Angels with the catch in shallow center. Well, how can you not love this town in October? What a magnificent sports setting, and all of New England's eyes, the region's eyes, all focus on Fenway Park in October. And right now they're loving Kevin Youkilis, his first inning home run, his first career postseason hit is the game's run. I mean, this morning in the Boston Globe, there were 12 pages devoted in the paper to tonight's game. That's staggering.
I thought they broke down the game as well as you possibly could from every angle you could do it.
Stole all of our material.
Well, I look at the defense, and I believe that the defense is showing you how they're going to pitch Youkilis, because Willits is playing him a couple of steps over into right center field, thinking he's going to go the opposite way. And after the home run to left center field the last time up, Lackey is staying away from him with fastballs and sliders, and he's fallen behind.
And Figgins is playing fairly shallow and right. And Youkilis pulls it to the left field line. Anderson was shading the line. He'll try to play this ball back in quickly, but Youkilis has a double.
There's an example of not pitching to the defense. When Lackey fell behind 2-1 to what the Angels consider an off-field hitter, he got that hanging breaking ball inside, and that's the ball that Youkilis takes down the line, winds up with a double. He's 2 for 2. Anderson got to the ball quickly. It was not a good throw to second base. And the Red Sox once again putting a lot of pressure on Lackey, and again the pitches are starting to pile up.
6 hits now for the Red Sox. And Ortiz takes a ball. Of course, the last inning, the last Red Sox inning, ended with what appeared to be a missed call on a steal attempt that got the Angels off the field and got him a break.
And the Red Sox were the best in the American League percentage-wise at stealing. They were successful 80% of the time.
Right field toward the pesky pole, and Big Papi adds to his October resume. 3-0 Red Sox.
We told you coming in that the 2 guys this Red Sox order that just kill Lackey are Ortiz and Ramirez. You can add Youkilis to that tonight, and the Red Sox have the 3-run lead.
You talk about a guy that's decided he's going to own October. 9 career postseason homers for Ortiz.
When you throw an off-speed pitch and the hitter doesn't move his hands, you've got some big problems. That was an off-speed pitch. Big Papi kept his hands back and drilled it.
Now Lackey's throwing strikes, but the problem is they've been hittable. The Red Sox with 7 hits. That's Stoney, what you're seeing. You see 2 guys that are aces for a reason. Both of these guys so far are throwing nothing but strikes. There seems to be a difference in the strikes they're throwing.
Well, Lackey's made a couple of mistakes and Beckett's made none.
Ramirez with a hard shot off the glove of third baseman Isturis in the first inning for a hit. And so Mike Scioscia immediately knows now he's not getting what he hoped for. He was hoping for that ace shutdown performance from Lackey. And of course the Angels are a team, the way they're built, that coming from behind they no longer have the Earl Weaver theory to use. They can't sit back and hope for a 3-run homer that's going to get them back into a game like this.
Well, you've got Guerrero and Anderson, and those are the guys that you look to hit it out. And they lost 18 home runs when Gary Matthews went down. They also lost a whole lot of defense. So Mike Scioscia said it kind of gently when they asked him about the condition of his ball club, and he said we're a little nicked up this part of the year.
Ramirez fouls it away. There was a quote. We talked to Terry Francona about it tonight, Stoney, and it just jumped out at me. Terry was talking about the Red Sox coming off their 04 championship. They got to the playoffs in 05 on the last day, won the wild card, and they got swept by the White Sox.
But they had to use Schilling on the last day, so their rotation wasn't lined up the way Terry wanted.
And that's what he said. And Lackey misses, so a good job by Ramirez to fight some off, and he works out a walk.
Take a look at the hands of Ramirez. He just waits back. He's quick enough to get around on anything inside and just waited for that ball. That was a no-doubter. The reaction from the dugout. And the Red Sox, who have done it with a lot of home runs, do it again.
David Ortiz with a 2-run shot. Ramirez with a walk, and now Lowell at the plate. Lowell with a foul out his first time. He fouls this one away. Well, Terry Francona said, and he told us this before the game, Stoney. He said, you know, 2 years ago, we went into the playoffs. We were a little out of sorts going in. And he said, before you know it, you're swept right out of this thing. And you almost can look at Mike Scioscia and feel for him. He's almost in the same spot.
Well, that's why I believe that this first series is the most dangerous, because if you get a couple of hot hitters, 1 or 2 hot pitchers, you're done. It's 3 of 5.
And Lackey missing 1-1 to Lowell. And of course, when I reference that, it's that the Angels are the team that's out of sorts. Players not in the positions they would normally be in tonight. Guerrero having to DH. A different outfield. Matthews not here, and the Angels need their pitching to carry him. That's been a strength. Napoli has it carry him away, and Ramirez gets to second.
A good base running on the part of Manny Ramirez, and that's one of the real underrated parts of his game. He's not overly fast, but he has pretty good anticipation. This ball in the dirt, Napoli does a nice job of blocking it and actually makes the play a lot closer than it should have been. Ramirez takes off. A good throw to second base. And all Kendrick is waiting for is the hand to come off the bag, and it didn't.
So now the Red Sox 2 runs in the inning on the Ortiz homer. They have Ramirez in scoring position, and Lowell sitting 2-1. And now 3-1.
I talked to Dave Magadan about Mike Lowell and why he drove in 120 this year and why it was different than every other year. He said quite simply he was always a dead pull hitter, and this year he realized that there's another side of the field. There's a lot of runs to be driven into right and right center field. especially if the pitcher is going to consistently stay away. Don't try to pull it and hit the ground ball shortstop.
Lackey with a breaking ball on 3-1, and he gets the strike. And that's what that approach did for him. 120 runs batted in, and will be the biggest baseball story as soon as the Red Sox season ends. He is a free agent. Lowell to center field, and that will bring Ramirez around third. And he will score 4-0 Red Sox.
And there was a great example of Mike Lowell not trying to pull the ball, taking it right back up the middle. Lackey's had some problems with the breaking ball. He's been rolling it. It hasn't been breaking real well. And Lowell drives in his first of the night. As you can see, that breaking ball was out away. It wasn't a sharp breaking ball, but it was out away from Lowell. You try to pull that ball, you ground to the left side. He just takes it right back up the middle. So the pitch in the dirt, the good base running play by Manny Ramirez, and then the RBI single by Lowell. And so far, it's been all Red Sox early.
Stoney, I'll ask you, I don't care how mentally tough you are. If you're John Lackey right now, you've got to think a little bit that this place is not for you.
Well,
Fenway once again struggling for John Lackey. Hey, enter People Magazine's Sexiest Fan Alive contest, and you, whether guy or girl, could be in People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive issue. Win a VIP trip for two to a 2008 Major League Baseball World Series game. To enter, go to peoplesexiestfan.com.
If you're John Lackey, what you're trying to do is make sure you stay out of that bullpen. Even in the long format, and the Red Sox, because they had the tiebreaker, they had the best record in the American League along with the Indians, but they held the tiebreaker. They elected the long format, meaning you're going to have a rested bullpen, but you don't want to go to it in the third inning.
Ball hit to Kendrick and to Cabrera, and they turn a double play on J.D. Drew. Nicely done by the Angels to get John Lackey off the field, but the Red Sox score 3 in the third. We go to the fourth at Fenway Park. Red Sox 4, Angels nothing. A beautiful night. The second game of 3 Division Series games on TBS today and tonight. Colorado beat Philadelphia earlier today 4-2 in Game 1. And coming up later tonight, Game 1, the Cubs and the Diamondbacks. As Cabrera is now in a 2-strike hole.
And I watched Josh Beckett saw his way through the 2003 postseason. He was a guy at that point that tried to throw the ball through the catcher. He had great stuff. A magnificent postseason for him, but he's a much more complete pitcher these days.
And Cabrera fouls it. The word you hear around the Red Sox a lot now is maturity. That he was never lacking in confidence and certainly never lacking in stuff. It's the maturity that's kicked in.
And they also talk about a prolific work ethic. And that's something that will serve him well as he moves down the line, because as we know, veteran pitchers, it's really a game of attrition. What nature takes away, what you have to add to your repertoire to compensate for that.
1-2 now to Cabrera. If the Angels want to try to make a dent back in this 4-run hole, this is an opportunity for them, with Cabrera hoping he can set a table for Guerrero and Anderson. Boy, Beckett just nasty. 97 for his third strikeout. Well, just a moment ago, we had a chance to talk to Red Sox pitching coach John Farrell. It's time to talk, brought to you by Charles Schwab, and we asked John about the first 3 innings of Beckett.
Well, Ted, I'll tell you, it's been consistent with his starts throughout the most of the year. His fastball command has been excellent, pretty much down the bottom of the zone, but I think what has made Josh Beckett successful this year is the use of his secondary pitches.
And John, last year he gave up 36 home runs. This year just 17. This is a guy that threw over 200 innings. And being a power pitcher, how do you explain a 5-to-1 strikeout to fastball ratio?
Well, he has a very rare combination of not only power, but certainly his ability to command the baseball. And that goes back to his athleticism and really the ability to repeat his delivery. And he's just been not only an ace, but a workhorse for us this year.
All right, John, thank you. Got a friend there.
All right, thanks.
That was Terry Francona tapping John Farrell during the interview as Guerrero grounds out. And after Sean Figgins opened up this game, with a sharp single to center off the glove of second baseman Dustin Pedroia. 11 straight set down by Beckett.
Well, after that first inning, Beckett hasn't seen the stretch. And what he's been able to do was establish the inside part of the plate. That's where he's getting his strikeouts, whether it's the fastball or the hard slider. Last time Anderson was up in the first inning, he buried a slider low and in and struck him out. Good fastball to Cabrera to lead off this inning. Again, in on his hands, and they're not able to touch Beckett.
Anderson fouls it back, and so that last little number you saw there, you talk, the word command gets thrown around a lot. So Beckett's thrown 49 pitches. This is the 13th batter, and he's only thrown 13 balls.
It's really astonishing when you consider that he runs that fastball up there in the high 90s. I mean, 96 to 98 miles an hour. You very rarely will find a guy with that kind of command. Now, when he was young, Curt Schilling had that kind of command and that kind of fastball. Not so anymore, and we'll see Curt in the third game of the series.
And 0-2, and this is another little facet here in this inning. Steve, exactly what Mike Scioscia said tonight before the game. There's Schilling, who will start Game 3 Sunday afternoon in Anaheim.
And one of the best big game pitchers in the history of this sport.
We'll find out how he pitches on 12 days rest Sunday.
Well, regular season doesn't jump out at you. It's postseason.
Now Beckett strikes out, and he had the Angels hitting defensively that whole inning. And Beckett puts the big hitters down easily. So the Angels batting here in the 5th inning with Maicer Isturis fouling the first pitch away from Beckett. Casey Kochman, Howie Kendrick to follow.
The key for Beckett tonight has been strike one. He's done it consistently, and it sets up a defensive at bat, and that's what most of them have been for the Angels.
And it started in that last half inning. Stoney, and that's what Mike Scioscia said tonight. He said one of the keys for his team was to stay out of those scenarios. We can't let Beckett get us into 0-1s and 1-2s.
You can't take it. You can't take it early against him because he's throwing all strikes. In fact, 7 straight hitters, he's thrown strike one.
Sometimes trades work for both teams. You look at Beckett and you think this might turn out to be one of those deals that works well for both sides. The Red Sox getting Beckett, the Marlins getting a terrific everyday shortstop in Hanley Ramirez.
Ramirez has been leading off, but there's no doubt he's going to be a middle of the order hitter. We saw some tremendous power out of him this year.
And of course, Lowell was in that trade as a throw-in. Basically, the Marlins wanted to move his money, and it's turned out to be a great find for the Red Sox. And Anibal Sanchez, a young pitcher, threw a no-hitter last year, was in that trade as well. He got hurt, did not pitch this year.
Turned out to be a great trade for the Red Sox.
Yeah, for this year, no question.
And the question for Theo Epstein is, what do you do with Mike Lowell? He'd like to keep him, but it depends on the price. And I talked with Theo about something where he said that the New York Yankees make him and this ball club better, knowing they're in the division and knowing that he has to assemble a team that can win at least 95 games and then maybe have to find a way to steal a few more. And he said, look, I won't lie to you, $165 million payroll helps. He goes, but I have to have guys ready to come to the major leagues. And one of the ways to do that is from the time they get to the early minor leagues all the way up, they have the same system. And by the time they get to the Red Sox, at every level of the organization, they've been taught the same thing. So when they get here, like Pedroia and Ellsbury, they're ready to go.
And finally, on the 3-2 count, Isturis pops it up. So one of the better at-bats for the Angels so far against Beckett. Just no payoff for Isturis as we watch Josh Beckett, who has overcome a problem that really nagged him in his early years in Florida, Jose Mota.
Absolutely right. He had a lot of blister problems, and talking to his manager today, he says part of the solution was the fact that he worked very hard. He found different lotions to put on his hands, the training stuff. But how about this? Terry Francona saying it was getting him out of the Florida weather and the fact that this guy works hard to be the very best. Ted, Steve.
Yeah, they said getting out of the humid Florida weather, they thought it had something to do with it. But Beckett, his first year in the major leagues, when he pitched with the Marlins, he actually pitched some out of the bullpen because the blisters were such a problem for him. Now, if you're of any age and you know anything about baseball and you realize here's a Texan, you know, his idol, first idol, Nolan Ryan, who early in his major league career had horrible blister problems.
He used pickle brine to overcome that.
Pulled foul by Casey Kochman, and here's another Angel batter at 0-2. So this is game one of the American League Division Series at Fenway Park. The Boston Red Sox out 4-0 on the Los Angeles Angels.
And what a beautiful job they've done with this ballpark. President Larry Lucchino and his group since taking over. They've had a whole lot of success, a world championship, and they fill this ballpark every day, putting up some new seats up in the right field area. It just is beautiful here at night.
So coming at this from the specter of someone who had not been here for quite a few years, and there is Larry Lucchino and John Henry and Tom Werner, the ownership group that has done so much to change this scenario as Kochman goes down, and that's 5 strikeouts now for Beckett, and 14 consecutive batters retired.
The high heat, and there's no way a left-hander with an uppercut swing at the top of the strike zone can catch up with that. It's coming in 97, 98 miles an hour. He throws it right by Kochman. Beckett has yet to walk anybody. He gave up the leadoff single, and that's been it.
And Kendrick hits a ground ball to Pedroia. The leadoff hit by Figgins to start the game, and then 15 straight put down by Josh Beckett. Well, you know the guy who does that killer John Madden impersonation on NFL Sundays. His name is Frank Caliendo, and he has a new show that will change the face of late night. See the all-new comedy Frank TV. It comes November 20th to TBS. Bottom 5 here at Fenway. Dustin Pedroia takes strike 1.
This is a big inning for John Lackey because he's going through the top of the order. He has to worry about Ortiz, and if anybody gets on, Ramirez. And he wants to stay in this game and keep them out of the bullpen.
Well, Pedroia was been a leadoff man quite a bit, especially second half of the year for the Red Sox. Out twice quickly tonight. Ground ball and pop-up.
They had a lot of patience with him because he started out very slowly.
Pulled sharply right to Isturiz. So 1 down. Well, Stoney, I want to finish where we started the top half of the inning. And just quickly, that this is coming from someone who had not been in this ballpark in more years than I care to remember. And everything you see in that picture right there, all of the modern amenities and acceptances of contemporary life that have been added to this ballpark, none of it has compromised the identity of Fenway, and I think that's a tremendous credit to the Red Sox.
When you've got a ballpark that will seat tops around 39,000, and that's after they get through with 900 new seats up on the right field and the monster seats up there, you have to find ways to bring in revenue streams, and the Red Sox have done that. And there is some advertising around the ballpark, but the fans realize you're competing with the Yankees every year in their $200 million payroll. The Red Sox are at 165, and to do that, you have to be able to not just raise ticket prices all the time, but bring in advertising revenue. I think they've done it very well here. I think the ballpark looks beautiful, and the Red Sox put a competitive team on the field each and every year. The 5-year Theo Epstein has been here. 4 years they've been to the playoffs.
In fact, those are some new seats they put in just for postseason play, as Youkilis with a home run in the first and a double in the third is now at 2-2. The nice part is when you turn your set on and you see this game, if you're a baseball fan, you know it's Fenway. Nothing changes that vision, and that to me is the final line. 3-2 now to Youkilis with Ortiz behind him.
Euclid is one of those guys that very rarely will swing at a bad pitch.
Lackey came right in with the fastball, fouled back.
He's at the 80 pitch mark, and we're 1 out in the 5th inning. And that's one of the things that the Red Sox do to just about everybody. They're tough outs. There are no breathers. There's a lot of guys with very good eyes.
Well, Euclid just had his eye challenged there. Gary Darling had a different eye. There's 2 down. David Ortiz in the 3rd inning hits his 9th career postseason home run.
Last year, Ortiz hit 54 home runs and drove in 137, but he's had a bad knee most of this year. And even though he's had, by just about everybody's standards, an excellent season, it's not up to Ortiz standards, and he's probably going to have a clean out of that knee during the wintertime.
Yeah, it started earlier in the year. He was getting cortisone shots into his shoulder. His shoulder was bothering him, and then it became the knee later in the season. But he had .396 in September with 9 home runs.
Well, you look at 35, 117 and a .332 batting average and feel he's doing okay. But last year with 54 home runs and 137 driven in, he was healthy most of the year and just a different guy, as was Manny Ramirez. Still, they've both been problematic for Lackey. And at 3-1, if you're John Lackey, knowing that you've had no success at all with Ortiz, you pretty much wouldn't mind just maybe throwing one right at his hip.
And so Ortiz draws the 2nd walk from Lackey. Because of this series and the fact that the 2nd game will not be played until Friday, that there is another off day for travel, both teams only went with 10 pitchers in their rosters for this series. Both teams will only need 3 starters. So you would expect that bullpens will be on all call for every game except possibly the 3rd game. That's the only back-to-back in the series is games 3 and 4. Game 2 will be Friday night here at Fenway with Kelvin Escobar pitching for the Angels and Daisuke Matsuzaka for the Red Sox.
Escobar's had some shoulder problems. And Daisuke paying some dividends on the $106 million they paid to get him. They had to pay $51.5 million just to get the rights to negotiate with it.
One now to Ramirez. Manny with a single off the glove of the 3rd baseman Nestoris. A hard hit ball in the 1st inning and then walked in the 3rd.
Principal owner John Henry, who was an owner of the Florida Marlins before teaming with Tom Werner and Larry Lucchino here in Boston. And they've had tremendous success, along with Mike D., who's the chief operating officer, the man charged with opening up some of the revenue streams. There's Tom Werner, former owner of the San Diego Padres. So this was a very experienced group that came together to bring success to the Red Sox.
2-2 now to Ramirez. So you got these moments when you have a combo like Ortiz and Ramirez, you sense everybody in the ballpark, and this half inning is riveted. They know how challenging this is and how crucial it is for Lackey. Try to keep his team in this game in hopes they can finally generate some offense.
So far, no action at all in the bullpen for the Angels. None needed for the Red Sox. And the pitches are really piling up for John Lackey.
Ortiz will be, so to speak, in motion. And there's strike 3 called. And so Ramirez giving it to Gary Darling. That's 2 called strikes in the inning that angered the Red Sox. All right, Ernie, I like Cal's candor. That's very good.
Well, sometimes you just have to tip your hat, and tonight Josh Beckett has just had overwhelming stuff, and he's throwing all strikes. That's Stephen King.
Yes. Red Sox faithful, all part of the nation on hand here at Fenway. Well, John Lackey back out there. He's over 90 pitches now, but continuing to try to keep his team where it is.
And Irvin Santana up in the bullpen, in case Lackey has any problems at all. I would figure even if he gets through this inning, this will be the last that he'll go tonight.
And that's sawed off bat on the breaking ball. Cabrera throws out Lowell. Again, Lackey would next be scheduled to pitch in Game 4 if there is a Game 4, which would not be until Monday on his normal rest pattern.
There's a look at Santana. His Angels trailing by 4. They've managed just 1 hit and just the 1 base runner.
So J.D. Drew has grounded out twice, the second time a double play ball.
Now, Drew is experiencing what a lot of guys before him have experienced that have come to Boston with a big contract, and that is a tough first year.
That's deflected, and that's going to get Drew a base hit. A tough play for a pitcher. If it gets by Lackey, it's probably an out. He deflected it, changed its course.
It's so important to become the 5th infielder when you let the ball go. That's why a lot of great pitchers feel their position well. Lackey, a big man, but still not quite big enough to make that play. And he's got Drew aboard with 1 out.
And another way. So I guess we could sit here and probably find 20 ways a night to mention Greg Maddux, but you watch that play and you realize and appreciate Maddux. Who's one man who's got enough gold to.
The fact that he had to build a new house just to house the gold gloves that he's won. Another one of my former teammates many years ago, Jim Cott, is another guy that perennially won the gold glove.
There goes Drew. Varitek fouls it back. So the Red Sox putting a little motion in play.
Well, this is the underrated aspect of the game. Everybody thinks that Terry Francona and the Boston Red Sox are strictly a power team. But when you've been successful 80% of the time in stolen bases, that's #1 in the league. They stole 96, but also they use the hit and run. They don't have the speed nor the aggressiveness of the Angels, but they still are an aggressive team.
Varitek has singled to right and struck out tonight. Varitek hitting tailed off dramatically in the second half. He only hit .225 after the All-Star break. That ball played by Kochman to Cabrera. Lackey covers. Double play. That's the 3rd double play turn by the Angels rather through 6. Now tonight's Sonic trivia question was about John Lackey, this year's American League ERA leader, who was the last AL ERA leader to pitch for a World Series winner. You've got to go back almost 30 years to Ron Guidry. Did it in 1978 for the Yankees. And you can go to TBS Hot Corner on MLB.com to play more Sonic trivia powered by Nano Gaming.
His record that year was 25-3, and he had one of those sliders that he just buried down and into the right-handers, and they could do Absolutely nothing with it. A lot like Steve Carl.
And we're watching a dominant performance tonight by Josh Beckett as he starts the 7th inning. He's just gone over the 70 pitch mark. Retired 18 straight with the help of Coco Crisp's play to end the 6th inning since Sean Figgins began the game with a single, the only Angels runner.
The Angels are going to do it. It's going to be right this inning because this is the heart of the order. Cabrera, Guerrero, Anderson. If anybody gets on his tourists, if Beckett gets through this one, the Angels are going to be in big trouble.
Another ground ball. Lugo. And Cabrera is out. So 19 straight. No walks, nothing really close to a walk. His tourists did get to a 3-ball count in the 5th inning against Beckett.
It's only been
7 strikeouts.
Only been 3 fly balls hit in the game. Rest are strikeouts and ground balls. That's how dominant Josh Beckett has been.
So Guerrero has grounded to third and grounded to short, which now makes him lifetime just 5 for 25 against Beckett. And that's matchups that started when they were both in the National League.
We talked about guys coming over, getting big contracts, having tough years. Josh Beckett last year, although he was 16-10, his ERA was 5.01. Edgar Renteria signed a pretty big contract, came here, had a very disappointing year, especially defensively. And for whatever reason, Terry Francona says they'll eventually settle down and be the player we think they're going to be. But it's usually in the second year. Doesn't understand what it is. It happens sometimes in New York. It happens a lot here in Boston. And when you have a curveball like this that just disappears, even the great ones like Vladimir Guerrero have big problems with it.
Somehow gets a piece of it, which has always been one of the amazing traits of Guerrero, is that somehow he gets his bat on the ball. How does he actually get the bat on that?
Well, getting your bat on a waste pitch in the dirt is a good trick.
And you know, he's one of these guys, he's made a great living being able to hit balls like that.
9 years with over 100 runs batted in for Guerrero.
And for years you'd go to Montreal, and if you could get a Montreal player around the batting cage, it was not very difficult to get them to tell you, and I'm sure Angels is the same way, legendary stories about pitches that Guerrero could actually hit and hit effectively, that guys say they'd fall down on the bench. They couldn't believe he could actually hit this pitch and hit it into the gap in right center.
You see Veritek looking up at Guerrero to see if he's moved closer to the plate. And that's a sign of a good catcher. He wanted to see if he had moved up closer to the plate or was looking back before he hung the sign and sat on the outside corner. You see Veritek look at his feet, look at his hands, and then give the sign, the fastball away.
Well, that ball got a little too much of the plate, and Guerrero rips it. So the second hit for the Angels, and that ends Beckett's run of 19 straight retired. So Guerrero on with 1 out for the Angels, who would love to be able to get their K-Rod into the game. How nasty he has been. Fabulous signing, Vladimir Guerrero, continuing what he started in Montreal. And yep, they got challenged by the Seattle Mariners, who had a wonderful season until September, but the Angels went pretty much wire to wire, just like the Red Sox did. The 4 teams in the American League that made the playoffs separated by 2 wins. 2 96-win teams and 2 94-win teams.
And they all have one thing in common. They were all dominant at home. None better than the Angels. But the problem for them tonight is that they're not at home.
And Anderson with a pop-up. Playable for Lowell. 2 down. Well, at Fenway Park on a beautiful night to begin the postseason. The second of our 3 division series games today on TBS. The Red Sox with some hitting early. Youkilis and Ortiz with home runs, but Josh Beckett pitching. Steve Stone, and I'm thinking Mike Lowell standing at third base saying, I saw this before. This is the way Beckett pitched when he helped the Marlins win the World Series 4 years ago.
That's exactly how he pitched. And when he threw a shutout to win the World Series, he had the same kind of stuff that he has tonight. Only he was facing a team with a little more thunder in the New York Yankees.
Mike Lowell said this about Beckett in the 03 postseason. He said, I've never seen a pitcher more dominant for 3 weeks. Beckett pitched 42 2/3 innings in that postseason and only allowed 21 hits. That's against playoff teams.
Well, I watched him in Florida in Game 3. And he was unbelievable against the Cubs that year.
Of course, here it is against the Yankees in the World Series when he ended up finishing the game. What a thrill. It's one thing to win a clinching game, but to finish it, and to finish it at Yankee Stadium. Sturris bats splinters, double play ball. Don't need the double play. 2 outs in the inning. And that takes Beckett through 7 shutout innings in Game 1 at Fenway. DHL presents an MLB delivery man. In relief out of the Angels bullpen comes Irvin Santana, who was a starter most of the year but struggled for the Angels, and fans go to MLB.com to cast your vote for the 2007 DHL presents MLB Delivery Man of the Year award.
Santana only worked twice out of the bullpen. He did give up 26 home runs in 150 innings. And of greater concern, not real good on the road. 1-10 with an ERA over 8.
Crisp fouling this ball away, and so that'll be an 0 for 3 for Coco Crisp as Sturris puts it away. A 1-out Julio Lugo, the batter. The Angels were hopeful that Bartolo Colon, who pitched in relief in their final series in Oakland this past weekend, would be in the bullpen for this series, but he felt his elbow act up on him during yesterday's workout.
The same problem with Colon, and they're not ruling out that he can come back in the next round if there is a next round for him. That one bunted foul. Same thing with Tim Wakefield. They weren't going to use him, and instead of using him in this series, he had a cortisone shot in his back. If he got hurt in this series and the Red Sox advanced, they couldn't use him in the next series. So he was not activated. He was one of the mainstays this year, and he can be eligible to come back.
One of the changes in postseason baseball this year is that you can replace a player in the middle of a series. If a player is injured, in past years you could never replace a player in the midst of a series. You can this year, but the injured player then cannot play in the next series should your team advance.
Well, that's one of the reasons why Wakefield was not made eligible this series, because they do intend to, as it goes to a 7-game series, perhaps use him in the next one.
And Santana burns it on the inside. Well, you see the stuff right away, and you can see why Santana's year was a puzzle to many around the Angels. This guy's got Terrific arm.
Good fastball on the inside corner. Well framed by Napoli.
And he was a very good pitcher. I mean, he really, in some ways, reflects the Angels' season. He had a 3.2 ERA at home this year, 8.3 on the road.
I think what happens to him at times is he falls in love with that breaking ball. Struck out enough men to be effective, but 26 home runs in 150 innings is not real good.
So Dustin Pedroia 0 for 3 tonight, finishing up a season in which he posted the highest batting average ever by a rookie second baseman, 317.
It's one of those guys that you take a look at. If you're a scout, he was drafted in the supplemental round of the first round, but his baseball IQ was off the charts.
And Santana puts him away. What an impressive inning by Irvin Santana that sends us to the 8th at Fenway. Still all Beckett. The American League Division Series on TBS is presented by Budweiser, the official beer of baseball. It's the top of the 8th at Fenway Park in Game 1. And the Red Sox lead 4-0 behind a dominant Josh Beckett performance, and he gets Casey Kochman on the first pitch.
We're going to take a look at either a collage of futility or a lot of strikeouts, depending on your viewpoint. Good fastballs inside. No chance at all for the Angels. That sinker away from Anderson. Great curveball. Beckett's just had it all, given up 2 singles, and that's been it. Has not walked one of these Angels tonight.
Josh Beckett, a 20-game winner. The only 20-game winner in this season. He did it in only 30 starts, which is a huge change from days of old.
By the way, that's 17 of the last 18 hitters he's thrown strike one.
And Beckett was only 2 innings short of becoming the 20-game winner with the fewest innings ever pitched in a season. Beckett threw 200 and 2/3 of an innings this year. Pedro Martinez threw 199, and Bob Grimm back in 1954 with the Yankees 199, winning 20 games. But Beckett has, when he's pitched 8 times this year, got through 8 innings, which he's 2 outs away from doing here.
You peel the first base, and Dan Iasonia said, yes, indeed. Howie, you did go.
Kendrick stays alive. He's lined to center and grounded to second tonight. Beckett, no walks, 7 strikeouts, 2 singles allowed, and 1 sterling defensive play by Coco Crisp in the 6th inning. Eric Ibar on deck to hit for Mike Napoli. Wide of third and through. Got somehow squirted between Lowell and Lugo, so Kendrick has the 3rd Angels hit.
And that was one of the few rolling curveballs that Beckett thrown tonight. As you can see, it just comes up there, doesn't do very much. That's the first sign that a pitcher is starting to lose a little bit of that sharpness. Because this curveball that's been biting all evening didn't do anything, and Kendrick took it into left field. So Ibar, who was put on the roster when Gary Matthews was taken off, getting a chance to pinch hit here in the 8th inning.
Eric Ibar, 23 years old, from the Dominican Republic. He is a switch hitter. 194 at-bats for the Angels this year. Ibar missed most of the second half of the season. He had that surgery done that so many major leaguers end up having, a little hook of a bone called the hamate bone in your wrist. He had surgery on July 5th to take that bone out. It's been 0-2 on every hitter tonight, hasn't it?
Well, it's been 9 of them. Is that one down and out of the zone? But Ibauer thought it was good enough, just unhittable. And the bullpen continues to work for the Red Sox.
Only 23 balls in 7 1/3 innings for Beckett. Pedroia. Lugo not in time to turn 2.
Nothing really you can do on that one. It was a chopper, slow developing, and Lugo did everything he could. Tried jumping out of the way of Kendrick, but couldn't get enough on the throw. Ibauer's got very good speed, and they get the force at second. Good leap over the top of the sliding Kendrick, making sure that Lugo didn't get taken out of the plate, at least got the throw off.
So Ibauer the batter, or rather Ibauer the runner, with 2 outs, and we're going to have another pinch hitter for the Angels. Terry Francona making his adjustments as he sees Kendry Morales get in the box. So Morales is going to bat for Reggie Willits.
When Veritek goes out there to just refresh the memory of Josh Beckett on just exactly what Morales can do. You see Papelbon and Okajima. When we talked to Terry Francona before the game, he said he wouldn't hesitate to use Papelbon, preferably for 4 outs. That's all the Angels have left. Now Morales can really hit at .294 this year.
First time he's faced Beckett, and he fouls it away. Morales, a young man who defected from Cuba. He was a teenage phenom in Cuba. In fact, at age 19, he played for the Cuban national team and was the cleanup hitter. He defected at age 20, signed a long-term deal with the Angels, has worked his way through their system. Switch hitter. And that will advance Ibauer. The Angels did get Figgins in the first inning to third base with 2 outs. So now just the second runner in scoring position on a wild pitch.
I wouldn't expect Terry Francona to be much more patient. As you can see, when a curveball hits in the dirt, it goes the other way. And that time, Veritek, who's usually pretty good at blocking low pitches, had that one get away. If he doesn't get Morales, I got to figure he's going to the mound and eventually to the pen.
So he gets ahead now. That was 100 pitches by Beckett. Francona sitting front center with a piece of that. Now Fenway rising, trying to make sure Beckett, as he did 8 other times this year, can finish the 8th inning. He had 1 complete game. Great comebacker by Beckett. Breaks back across the inside corner for his 8th strikeout and 8 zeros for Josh Beckett. Ever see someone who does impressions and think, wow, that's even better than the real thing? Well, TBS has that guy, Frank Caliendo. Don't miss the all-new TBS late-night comedy, Frank TV, coming November 20th to TBS. As we go to the bottom of the 8th, and Kevin Youkilis, first ball swinging, flies out to the new right fielder, Ibauer, who stays in the game.
Got Mathis behind the plate, Figgins sliding over to center field, and that's the defensive changes for Mike Scioscia.
And the question, one of the questions for Mike Scioscia after tonight will be, Is that where Sean Figgins is going to play Friday night in Game 2? Would he play in center and allow the Angels to put a little better offensive lineup together?
Well, I'm not sure how much better he could have done against Josh Beckett tonight, but I got to believe that Scioscia is going to be thinking about getting a little more thunder in the lineup.
That would be, by doing that, he would be putting Vladimir Guerrero back into right field and then enable him to DH either Morales or Juan Rivera. Ortiz has not been retired tonight. A single in the first, a 2-run homer to right in the third, and a walk in the fifth.
Well, they stayed away from him in the first inning, and he punched it through the left side. Then they tried to get inside on him, and it was a hanging breaking ball. Hit it out of the park in the third. And a full house of 37,597 here tonight.
One and two now to Ortiz. Two now to Ortiz. Don't forget that Game 1 of the Cubs and the Diamondbacks still to come tonight on TBS. Another terrific pitching matchup with Carlos Zambrano and Brandon Webb battling.
Defending Cy Young Award winner Brandon Webb. Ortiz is so difficult to pitch to because he's quick enough to get around on anything inside, and he stands right on top of the plate and takes the outside corner away from you.
Ortiz out to shallow center. Figgins in, and the ball hangs up. Figgins runs it down. 2 away here with the Angels trailing in yet another Division Series Game 1. Jose Mota.
Absolutely right. When you look at the Angels and the history of Game 1 of a Division Series, it has not been good. But overall, they have been able to rebound and come back. The one difference here is the off day in between Game 1 and Game 2. But overall, you know, they're a very resilient ball club with Mike Scioscia at the helm. There's never any giving up. Vice.
Here's Manny Ramirez. Jose, I'd be curious to get your view. Do you think Vladimir Guerrero, what would you say your chances of seeing him play right field are Friday?
We saw him play long catch today. I think overall he was over 150 feet. And Vladdy today before the game did express to me that the off day should help him to get back in right field here fairly soon. Hopefully by Friday at the least, the latest on Sunday.
If they can get him back into right field, they can put another hitter in the lineup, and a hitter that they desperately need against Boston in this ballpark. I know that Lackey got hit early, but what he did do was buy another 3 innings after giving up the early 4. And he helped keep the Angels out of the bullpen until Santana came in last inning.
Ramirez the pop-up foul, and this is playable for his tourists. So Ervin Santana retired all 6 men he faced out of the Angels bullpen. Now the Angels gather themselves for one last shot. Well, you have an idea they were ready for this tonight? The faithful, they've seen Beckett put together a spectacular year, and Josh Beckett goes to the mound, having crafted that night for 8 innings to try to pitch a complete game. He'll face the top of the order, Sean Figgins.
Well, I think the fact that that last fastball in the 8th inning was 98 miles an hour on the inside corner probably convinced Terry Francona that Beckett has a little left in the arm.
Of course, I understand for some younger fans, I wish I was younger like you, we have to define what a complete game is. I recognize that. But Josh Beckett has only pitched 4 complete games in his career in the regular season. He's pitched 2 in the postseason, trying tonight for a 3rd.
Boston only had 5 all year and only had 3 thrown against them.
Figgins to left. Jacoby Ellsbury breaks in, and Jacoby Ellsbury makes Terry Francona smile. The defensive replacement just entered for Ramirez.
Ellsbury can play all 3 positions and has tremendous speed, and we told you that speed shows up in a lot of different areas. This is a good effort takes away a base hit attempt by Figgins, and that's a big first out. You don't want to get to Guerrero and Anderson with runners in scoring position.
Well, Figgins actually responded tonight. He had 3 good at-bats against Beckett with 1 hit and twice robbed of hits. Cabrera bouncing out on the first pitch. 2 down in the 9th.
Fans here in Boston on their feet. Almost 38,000. Seeing a gem of a performance, a 3-hit shutout by Josh Beckett.
And for all the focus on Big Papi and Manny and hitting here, it has been the Red Sox pitching this year, best in the American League. And in Game 1 of October, Josh Beckett trying for a shutout. Guerrero 1 for 3 tonight, one of the 3 singles allowed by Beckett.
Well, the biggest addition to the Beckett that I saw in 2003 and the one I'm looking at tonight was the fact that he can make the ball sink in the mid-90s.
Up the middle, and Guerrero has his 2nd hit. 4 tonight. But that's it. 4 runners for the Angels. And
Beckett tried to knock that one down with his foot. Wasn't able to do it, and it snuck through the middle of the diamond.
Well, tonight, these 2 offenses of different styles. It's the Red Sox that have had 2 long balls to generate their offense. And the Angels have not been able to play their smaller game with any success against Beckett.
Terry Francona told Kevin Youkilis to stay well behind Guerrero at first base. Give him second if he wants.
Guerrero runs, fly ball, Coco crisp. He is there, and Josh Beckett throws a shutout in Game 1 of his first postseason as a member of the Boston Red Sox. Still a very young man, and he's already thrown 3 postseason shutouts. And Josh Beckett is our Chevrolet Player of the Game in recognition of his outstanding effort tonight. Chevy will donate $1,000 to Major League Baseball's youth baseball charity, Chevy, an American Revolution. Stoney's only pitched 2 shutouts in his career in the regular season. He now has 3 in October.
Well, tonight he was able to bury that fastball inside to the right-handers, throw the good curveball away to the left-handers. The fastball was coming back over the plate. He didn't walk one of the Angels tonight. Josh Beckett in control from start to finish. A 4-0 shutout. Terry Francona, even in a long series, won't have a taxed bullpen. Everybody will come back fresh after the day off. But what a way to start it off for Beckett and the Red Sox. And they got all the runs early. They hit the ball out of the ballpark, which is what they do. And after that, it was pitching and defense that made it hold up.
Well, you had 2 guys who've established themselves in October. Beckett with a shutout, and David Ortiz with his 9th career postseason homer, and he's with Jose Mota.
Thanks a lot, guys. David, it seems like this time of year waits for you, and you truly delivered once again.
Well, you know, this is a short series, and like everybody knows, you got to produce at the time, and everybody, not a news, but for everybody that Lucky's a good pitcher, he got good stuff, and whenever you make a mistake, you got to try to get it.
And trying to get behind these fans and talk about your home run, the pitch that you hit, and were you looking for that pitch?
Well, everybody knows he had a good breaking ball. He liked to throw, especially when he want to get out of the situation, so you got to make up your mind.
Let's talk about playing at home. And Josh Beckett, did you ever anticipate, even though he is a big-time pitcher, to throw a shutout here?
I'll tell you what, man, that guy was very impressive. I mean, he been like that all year round, but I don't know what's going on tonight. Even watching him on TV, it was tough to hit him.
With a new format, off day tomorrow, coming back in a couple of days, does this benefit your ball club?
Well, I guess, you know, this is the end of the season, and you want to give some time off to your pitcher and the guys that have injuries, so I think it's a good idea.
Talk about the rest of the rotation, set by Beckett, and now going with Daisuke, and then on game 3, Kurt Schilling.
Well, definitely, you know, Beckett, he did a great job tonight, like everybody know. Daisuke, he been pitching good, so hopefully he came like he was doing it lately. And nothing, let's see what happens later on.
Everybody waits to see what happens with you. You get it once again. Thank you, David.
Thanks.